Oh, it's because they didn't have a fanfiction phase. They did not have a fanfiction phase. Or even worse, they did have fan fictions that got really popular, and they assumed because they were popular as fan fictions, that means that one-to-one, as a published work, they would be seen and critiqued just as good. Which, if E.L. James, and I think the book is called After, are any examples, that's not true. Because the rules of writing fanfiction are very different than the rules of writing independent stories. But also, fanfiction is a space where you can anonymously, unless you make yourself known on other platforms or give yourself a face, you can flex your creative muscles. You can write really dark, messed up stuff. You can write really cute stuff. You can gauge people's reactions and be peer reviewed. And peer review is very important when you are going to publish something that is meant to be read by your peers. And to be able to do that in a space where you have complete anonymity to fail and try again is so critically important to creative writing. Because let's be honest, in a lot of English classes, you're not being graded on your creativity. You're being graded on your ability to follow a format, your technical prowess, and how well you're able to articulate your points. In creative writing classes, you are stifled by the amount of other students in your class, as well as your teacher. My creative writing room was incredibly stifled. We only had 12 kids. We all came from very different walks of life. And our teacher was super homophobic and limited what we could write about. I didn't really start growing and learning as a writer until I got on fanfiction.net. I had been writing stories since I was like 8 years old, but when I was 15, I published my first work, and that's where I really started to progress in my writing capability. People told me things. People reminded me of things. People said, hey, if you word this, it might flow better. Editing was something I really didn't understand, and thankfully there were people in my comments being like, hey, you spelled this wrong. That sort of feedback made me, edit things. It made me rethink format. It made me rethink scenarios. Through reading fan fiction, I would find authors who wrote beautifully, and I mimicked that style of writing. I took pieces of different artisans and made my own style. And I use that to write my own published books. Even with my own published books, because of this new area of peer review that I'm in, I have drastically changed my writing from my first book, Branches, to my new book, Give Fangs a Chance. There was a very noticeable jump in quality, not just on my writing skills, but also the art books I made for each book. A lot of the authors that are publishing these trite, tropey, fanfiction-feely novels are a product of never doing thorough peer review. I was writing fanfiction for 10 years before I then actually published my first book. And I can tell you in no uncertain terms, that drastically helped me.